I have made promises and statements before regarding it, but personally, there's a lot of stale Minecraft ARGs. Boring, uninteresting, or non-unique entirely. So today I'll spice this up with, drumroll please, a Garry's Mod ARG! Hey, it's different, okay? It's not a Minecraft Dark Figure ARG, so it's good enough for me. Today we'll be looking at a few Garry's Mod ARGs, Ottis Enjoyer 1998 and PlasticApple 2011. The reason I'm making this one big video instead of multiple smaller ones is because when I polled if people would prefer ARG coverage like this in one big video or a few smaller ones, you assholes wanted to give me more work. It's fine though. So let's start with Ottis Enjoyer first. Okay, yeah. This plays on the trope of almost every other big Gmod ARG, where the player has a YouTube channel with machinimas and has a name in the format of character name, synonym for like, and year, with the description of how their favorite character is from X source game. But I am still curious. As this would be the first Gmod ARG I cover, let's make it a unique one. Before we get into it, however, I'm going to need to do some explaining, mainly for those who need context. Half-Life is one of the most popular and innovative shooter series that came out of the 90s, renowned for its advancements in game design and the like. Ottis, the main character we'll be seeing as the namesake for the channel, is from the Half-Life Opposing Force game, a game which was effectively like paid DLC for Half-Life. You just play through a completely new story set at the same time as Half-Life. There's also the main game these characters will show up in, Garry's Mod. This game is a mod of the Half-Life 2 game, where you can import add-ons and pretty much anything you want, unless it's copyrighted by Nintendo. Okay, we got all our bases covered? Well, grab a snack, some water, and let's dive into Ottis Enjoyer 1998. Our first episode is from a year ago named The Donut Machine. This video starts with the character Ottis, who doesn't have money for the donut machine, but then he sees the Half-Life 2 version of G-Man and tries to get a quarter from him. But he doesn't have one, so the next best solution is... While this works and gets him donuts, the G-Man lays very uncomfortably, it looks like. At the end of the video, we see the player seeming to use their fizz gun to move a wall and then sneak behind the corner while Ottis is celebrating his donuts. To me, this is a bit weird because at first it looked like as if the player was using their fizz gun to move them, so I don't know why he'd be all the way in that corner. It's also just a little inconsistent to me that everything is an HL1 model except for G-Man. The description just says, Ottis uses the donut machine at work. A simple and kind of repetitive start, considering it could be seen as a parody of how classic GM videos started. But let's keep watching to see. Gordon Freeman has had enough is next, and starts with Gordon being dragged to the front door. Again, for some reason he uses the HL2 model while everything else is Half-Life 1. But I digress. After some weird faces, the Benny Hill theme plays and Gordon chucks a can at a guard, killing him, then runs around the facility, causing mischief and death where he goes, and we can see the HL2 G-Man using a knife on a remover tool. However, at the end, when G-Man is hit by the Tau Cannon, we see the Gordon model start walking normally like a player. The description says, after being harassed by employees at work, Gordon finally loses it. But next, we have behind the scenes. He starts creating things like a grenade and Tau Cannon to set up, but he's not using the spawn menu. Rather, a tool gun set to creator. He then does this with a can of soda while the security guard is moving on their own. But all of a sudden a scientist comes by and shoots the can to the wall, making the player go get it. Then the scientist disappears. While putting the can down, the guard can also be seen shaking their head, looking past the player. After looking to the left, the player sees the scientist and he says,
Have you heard?
The character is cut off by another fizz gun ray taking him away. So now we have something a bit more interesting. The player sees the NPCs interacting but isn't afraid, so it must be normal to them. However, the NPCs may either be trying to rebel or tell our player something. The head shake from the guard makes these think he was warning the scientist, but we don't yet know if the threat is our player or something more sinister. There's also the implication of the creator tool, a tool to make objects that seemingly doesn't need to be modified or use a menu. But why? The next video is very different, being Home Security 090223. This one shows live footage of someone playing a bulky laptop at a desk while wearing a hoodie. We can see it's the player from the last video placing the grenade on the shelf. Then we see the kitchen with a can on the table. Then a dark bedroom, then back to the player. Then back to the dark bedroom, then the player. Then to the kitchen where a can flies off the table. We go back to the player, back to the dark room, but then next we see the player, they're looking away at something. And then they take the camera and walk with it, which the video ends. However, at the end, we can see what looks like a shaky, pure white void, possibly the White Room from Construct. This gives us something much more interesting. We can see that this paranormal abnormality must not just be in the game, but likely in our world too. But the next video is Disco Time. This one just has Ottis and Barney dancing in different places, like Two Fort or a test chamber, until at the end, Ottis does a move that gets him stuck in the ceiling, ending the video. The description is just the word yes. I liked it. Not every video needs to be ARG related, and I'm always glad when there's a decently funny or nostalgic type video in these series. But next, we have Survived. This video is G-Man from the first video on the ground, slowly trying to get up while having flashbacks to the first video. Eventually, G-Man finds a remover tool and grabs it, ending the video with a smile. Now that G-Man has a tool that can delete anything, I wonder who his target is. And does this have anything to do with that white portal from before? But now we also know that G-Man is alive, so Ottis must have been too. So where'd he go? Well, we don't know for now, so we should move on to Ottis' adventures in the kitchen. We see a small map with a house and G-Man slithering through the window. He goes to the stove and puts some gas on the stove, literally. But then we see Ottis say, "I was a wuss in high school," with Barney going to make a sandwich, where we can see a step-by-step guide, cutting watermelon, boiling them, getting toast ready, crack an egg onto the pot, with great difficulty, then blow up the house. Next, you can put your mixture on the toast, and it's done. Now we have a piping hot sandwich. But Ottis doesn't seem to like it very much. But he eats it regardless after shooting Barney, and then we get this. Yeah, that's a weird moment, but at the end we see the player's HUD and screen with a click sound. The description is, Barney is not a good cook, but we can unpack quite a bit from this. I believe the map is supposed to be the destructible house map, fizz_DMM_house. So we know this map had the creator in the sky, and it's hard to tell if the NPCs were just acting on their own or being puppeted. Usually ARG channels like this would have a distinct animation for the NPCs acting on their own versus being controlled, but at the moment it's a little difficult to tell if that's what's happening. Still, we have Ottis and G-Man back, which means this could be an earlier recorded video, or it's G-Man trying to get revenge by inciting a fire on the stove while Barney is trying to cook. Our next video is Playing with My Brother. The video starts with an apology about the cropping and aspect ratio. As someone who has streamed and recorded Garry's mod, can confirm, it's a massive pain in the ass. We can see the player and their brother playing, showing different clips. A lot of it is just the two messing around with NPCs, and we see in a death cam the player has a charpal skin, but it doesn't seem that important. At the end of the video, Ottis Enjoyer is in this hall of different lighted rooms when he suddenly takes a crossbow bolt and the video ends. While I don't know the map in the video, regarding the light room, this looks like GM Construct. Someone noted something about how this was GM13 and not GM10, so this must be what they're trying to mimic. Two other comments caught my eye too. One about how another generic YouTuber is going to make an ARG breakdown, of which, hurtful, but completely fair. The second, however, is, "Where's the dark figure?" with the creator commenting to look harder. God damn it! Well, I rewatched the video a couple times and still couldn't find anything, so I really hope it's a joke. The description just said how the creator was running out of ideas, so just strung together some clips. Ironically enough, it's the second most popular video on the whole channel, underneath Gordon Has Had Enough. But next is Ruin Machinima, where we start with a donut coming from a donut. Then we see Ottis shoot a donut from Barney's hand, talking about the Black Ops soldiers, and we see a Black Ops assassin run by, then cut to the player's view. Then we see a text card that explains how Lolpop went on about how he needed to stop. He doesn't understand why his brother obsesses over stuff like this. The description says, "I was trying to make another machinima, but my brother ruined it. He hasn't talked to me since for some reason. I don't understand why he gets so mad over a game." Next we have Cool Gmod Trick. This one starts super grainy with some Windows Movie Maker text on screen. That was dark. Considering the ending with such a sudden and violent twist, it was really surprising and actually quite unique, especially for a gmod ARG. We already had a reaction from the creator where they looked at the white void, but now we see that this goes both ways. Hopefully the next video will give us some more context. It says, "What's up guys, it's Lolpop here. Recently my brother was found on the floor in a pile of his own blood." Okay, I hate to interrupt so soon, but the music does not fit whatsoever. The techno stock music just makes this way too funny to be sad. The doctors can't find what caused it, but they say it was similar to a bullet wound. He's in the hospital right now and is not set to recover. On the bright side now, I get to use his channel. This is the most asshole brother thing I've ever seen. And I totally believe this would happen. The description says how they wanted to give everyone an update, and it's sad what happened, but they're excited for the videos they're about to make. Looking back on this, I think that this was all because of the brother. Ottis Enjoyer was playing gmod while his brother was recording that video. I think this because 1, clearly it's a player, 2, the footage is of a lower quality with more spelling errors akin to this one, and 3, the player doesn't seem that sad regarding his brother's hospitalization. Granted, it's through text, we get this message, but some of the messages seem too excited tone-wise. Next though we have Tapes 01. The video starts with a whirring VHS tape sound and a US government disclosure notice. Then we see Division 102 Log 01. We see a diagram of 2 planes of reality, objects being parallel in it. Using radio frequencies, the 2 planes can interact in some way and further testing is needed. Log 02 explains that they have found some way to have an interface, and we see a screen running gmod with an Ottis NPC model on the floor. The player decides to pick up the NPC, then the camera looks up to see a body suspended in midair. In the inscription we get a code with a bunch of numbers. They're all different numbers that seem to correlate with an ASCII value that spell out, "This is not the true reality." This begs the question of if it means that the second reality doesn't exist how they claim, or that the first reality isn't where they belong. Regardless, the next video is Grab the Milkshake and Run. One assassin takes the other's milkshake and a fight ensues. After the skip part is over, with the assassin landing on a hospital, we switch to a black and white view, assumedly from a player where they back out of the room and walk into one with a different figure. The screen glitches and then we see a real person in a bed. The words, "I'm sorry, brother, but this is more important than you," flash on screen. So this seems to throw a twist, but also an admission of guilt. Lolpop likely killed Ottis Enjoyer, but it's not to take his channel, but for some greater purpose. Maybe protecting the NPCs or something similar. The next video is less exciting, being top 5 Half-Life characters where it has misspellings. The characters are Alex Vance at 5, Judith Mossman at 3, Breen at 2, and the Combine Assassin at 1. Because, of course. The omission of 4 and Ottis would be a bit odd if this was the original creator on, but unfortunately not. The video after is Misc Gameplay Dump. We watch Ottis Enjoyer from multiple different perspectives of who we can assume is Lolpop. Last one even has the player being chased down and shot, and then falling out of the map. The description says, "Some of the last clips I had with my brother. He was always annoying like this." Attack of the Assassins is just a machinima-style video of some assassins attacking scientists, where the end has the player congratulating them, saying they did well. Also, I forgot to mention what a machinima is. It's pretty much an animation style of utilizing a game or in-game elements to create an animation or video like that. Famously known from the Machinima channel, where they had old Gmod and Halo machinimas. But now we have the video, Taken. This one has us in the position of the scientist from one of the first videos. We see what happens after they got taken, where another player keeps them captive and knocks them out, then puts them in some stasis prison. But then the video ends. The description simply says, "We can't run anymore. There is no escape. We are hiding. Do not let him win." The camera looks up. A scientist asks if someone heard that, then gets dragged away by a fizz gun beam. Then the camera we see from falls as we hear more scientist screams. Next we see 2 hurt scientists and 2 others trying to help. However, the camera and a health kit fall down a trash can, and then we see the creator in their bed, and we hear a sound as if they're waking up. There's also a few parts of dialogue that are difficult to hear from the beginning, so I'll play them if you're curious.
23 years. There is no escape. We are in hiding. Do not let him win.
The description says, "Do they see us? Or did he?" The next video is titled HDV with a sequence of numbers. The numbers align with the letters in the English alphabet spelling the word remember. I'll let the full video play.
Today we remember the Division 102 research team. 28 years ago, a reactor meltdown caused the loss of the entire team. They had a goal. What happened?
So it looks like the brother was not in a hospital, but rather a basement, possibly, and that health pack must have actually somehow healed him. The description says, "What do you want from me?" The following video is map distortions on GM Construct. The player's spelling error are even more evident in the titles. The player is on the same version of Construct in previous videos. We can tell because of the parked airboats and cars, but they seem to just be messing around largely. Eventually, the player starts making some sort of contraption out of wood, a couch, and a glass dome. It breaks and they have to rebuild it, starting riding around. But then we can see that the lake is dry and gone. The player seems confused at this, and we can also see that grassy spikes have started appearing. When they zoom in, a flash of light appears, and then we see the original creator on the ground after the revolver shot. The video ends as they get dragged away. The description simply says, "Leave me alone. I don't want to go back." Now we have interesting saves on my brother's gmod. I'll let this one play out. There's a few parts of this I want to talk about specifically. The first being, during the view through all these test tubes, when stopping at one for one frame, we can see the perspective from a test tube victim. 2, this is not Lolpop, this is Ottis Enjoyer. He's back. Somehow. 3, I stopped it at the loud error noise. But after there is what sounds like Morse code. I had attempted to use an audio decoder, but it didn't work, so I had to manually spectrogram it and got the Morse code. It translates to "free us." And 4, the description says, "I don't know what happened to him. It's been weeks and I haven't even seen him leave this room. All I want to do is have my old life back." So it looks like Ottis Enjoyer is now either stuck in the second dimension while either comatose or after waking up. Or he might just be stuck in there for much longer than we think. Next up we have Ottis and Barney escape Black Mesa. This video is just another long machinima. It's actually pretty entertaining to watch, and I recommend watching it if you check out the channel. This video involves Ottis finding a bomb placed by the HECU, finding Barney and Gordon, and then hijinks ensue while they try to escape. Eventually, Ottis gets caught in a donut luring trap, but that's all that really happens. The description says, "Sorry I haven't uploaded in so long. A lot has happened, but I've worked very hard in this video and I'm glad to share it." The explosion was made by G-Bombs 2. I know that doesn't mean that much, but for reference, I found a G-Bombs 4 review video in 2015, so this must have been a while ago. The next video is another outtake video of the last machinima. It just has the song "Spin Me Right Round Baby" playing while the opposing force agents hit a trigger mine which doesn't go off. Then we see a Barney model, cut to the player, and the video ends. I will say this video doesn't seem to have much lore significance, and the description just says how it was a funny outtake from the last one. But the one after is Ottis and Barney in City 17. This one starts with Barney and Ottis checking into City 17, then eventually finding the future Barney, and the other Barney starts fighting him. After the future one explodes, they run through City 17, and eventually a Combine attacks Ottis, and he just does the Omni-Man thing where he takes him and, well, you have eyes, you can see what it is. Yeah, that's pretty much the video. It was another solidly enjoyable machinima, but I think Gmod ARGs have a great way of doing these little machinimas through their old style. But that's alright, because our last video from Ottis Enjoyer 1998 is Corrupted Half-Life Source. This one has us open the Half-Life source map, but for some reason it looks odd, and the room is flipped. They go left instead of right, and the facility is darker and run down looking. No NPCs, few textures, and barely any sounds but the player's footsteps. While walking through the first hall at 18 seconds, there is also this freeze frame of a house. Eventually, the player turns off a light in a room, and we can hear some noises that sound like faraway voices being heard through metal. Then everything turns back on, and the player starts moving a bit faster. Going back, we can also see a dark figure run through one of the halls. The loading screen is even weird for this one section. While they load levels, we can see odd amounts of color and detail, while many other things are black and white shades. The player notices what looks like a radio and some blood on the ground, but keeps traveling. The player loads again into a control room looking area, and the load screen is still weird, and the player can see the inside of a chamber that looks destroyed with green goo on the floor and scaffolding. While traveling, we can see this little electric portal that spawns enemies, frozen in time. Then the player walks in this room and we see an oddly moving screen and it gets sucked in. The rest of the video has this dark, moving view as it traveled through space or some other drab dimension. Slowly near the end of the video it gets brighter, and then we see a brief flash of G-Man at about 5:20. What I neglected to say is that after jumping through that portal, a weird beeping sound played in the background. Converting it and making it a spectrogram, you get, "You are sensing the effects that your kind desire to control, but they cannot comprehend. You should see the flaws of this. Eliminate the beacon of darkness within your shelter, and my employers may hold back on the total annihilation of your race." Well, that was probably the longest spectrogram message I'd ever seen. But this gives us some information to toil with. Is this the G-Man talking? Is he referring to the 7-hour war from Half-Life 2 and the mercy of imprisonment? Or is this meaning to go beyond the games? The description tells us, "I've heard stories of this being glitchy, but I know it's not that. He's still trying to tell me something, I just don't know what." But that was the last episode of Ottis Enjoyer 1998 series. I did quite enjoy this ARG. I personally think this ARG does a both better and worse take on the living Ragdolls trope. What I think it does well is expand upon a common, stale, boring trope, living Ragdolls. But it seems that these Ragdolls aren't just sentient beings. They're connected across dimensions that can be crossed. I like all this astral feel it has. But it is weird that Garry's mod seems to be the catalyst. I think the story could be interesting, but it's not my favorite. I still think it's unique enough to earn its own merit, though. I do really want to see where this series goes, though. I think it could be expanded on in some really interesting science fiction directions. As stale as the trope has gotten, I think the creator's more creative than others that I've seen. Granted, I don't think it's the greatest, but I'd love to see where it ends up. But next, we'll look at one of the ones I actually knew before planning this video, PlasticApple 2011. Richter Overtime did a video on this series a long time ago, which I quite enjoyed. But the series has been updated since, with hopefully some new juicy story. So let's jump right in. The channel description says, "Hello, I'm a rookie Gmod video maker that tends to make content on Left 4 Dead 2. I love Rubberfruit and his content, and my favorite character to play as is Nick from the game Left 4 Dead 2. I intend to make my videos as funny as possible. After all, who doesn't want a funny Gmod video now and then? I will make more content in the future. Stay tuned." This one tells us his favorite character to play in Left 4 Dead 2, a famous zombie survival horde shooter made by Valve. That may need a video someday of its own. The first video is named The Annoying Redneck, Gmod. We start on what looks like CS Office, where we fade to Nick sitting on the couch until Ellis comes in to annoy him. Nick gets mad as Ellis stares like a damn idiot, but Nick isn't having it, so he just tries to shoot Ellis. But he misses. And through a Looney Tunes animation, hits him in the back of the head. The video ends with Nick on the ground and Ellis freezing when he sees the player. The description says, "Ellis is at it again. This time it's Nick, and he isn't in the mood today. What will happen next?" And then it gives the recording name. The next video is another recording name. For those who don't know what this is, it's actually a timestamp, which is the default recording on a lot of recording platforms. I believe these are replays from in the editor, which is why they have the HL2 prefix. But the rest is all just the date and exact time of the recording. The video starts with our player who is in the winter CS office again, and is exploring until he hears some noises. When walking in, we can see some things are knocked over, and we hear some glass shattering. As the player looks around some more, we can see someone run past in the room of the previous video. Walking into the Hall of the Movement, we can eventually see Nick with a gun again. But when he pulls the trigger, it clicks instead of pows. Disheartening. The player then uses the fizz gun to grab them, and we can see they undo props as well. Likely the gun. This is interesting. As someone who records videos themselves, I only see this happen when I'm recording with a capture card or AV cables. This could be a weird coincidence or oversight, but oh well. Something I neglected to mention is that there are subtitles with Morse code. Luckily, comments exist so that I didn't need to decode them myself. At 4 seconds, one says before it happened, at 15 seconds, the day before it happened, and 1 minute and 28 seconds, the self-defense. Most of the comments believe this is to be a misspelling of self-defense, considering the panic of the moment. But I don't know if it was self-defense. It'd have 2 Fs. I think it's supposed to be defenseless. The description says, calm before the storm, the second file has been released. Our next video is Chicken Hour, another Machinima-style video. This one is really enjoyable little skit about Coach from Left 4 Dead 2 eating some chicken, while Nick falls out of the sky and comes to talk to him. While Coach eats his chicken, Nick starts to see red flashes of himself on the screen that hurt his head. But then the player appears and Coach freezes. The description says, it's Chicken Thursday. All chicken is half price for the entire day and Coach will never miss an opportunity to go to KFC for a chicken leg. Not sure why Nick is in this video. He wasn't planned to be in it, but I decided to let him stay. It is pretty cool to see the comment from Richter Overtime on the video about his theory about the Ragdolls and their Toy Story-like demeanor whenever the player shows up. The next video is Moonstruck. We see a swinging light over Nick as we see flashes of him on the ground from the first video. The first few are just Ellis standing over him, then the player and Ellis standing by him. After that, the two sit him back on the couch and leave. Then our last image shows Nick alone on the couch before the video fades to black. Step 0. Patience. Now the next 2 pieces of information I can't really explain. According to many of the comments, at 15 seconds the subtitles say defense. Minor problem with this. The video doesn't have subtitles. Or a transcript. Another thing is that I have no clue how people found this hidden Imgur link from this video, that somehow unlocked a .rar file. The Imgur link is in Japanese, which translates to password. I also just want to say, in hindsight, this will be a recurring problem where evidence from one video is in another and it's not all correctly there. I think some parts of the ARG were changed or swapped around at some point, and some have just been changed or outright broken. But some videos will have evidence that is actually from a different video. So yeah, that's why some of the evidence will be a little bit more difficult to explain. Back to the script. I do not know where they found this, because at this point in the script, looking through the community posts, I didn't see anything. We may have to look for things in future videos, or this may have been edited, removed, or so forth. I just figured not to mention it would be a waste. But looking at the Imgur picture, we see Nick holding a chainsaw, a body, fizz gun, and remover tools on the floor, and Rochelle sitting on a box. Someone, likely Ellis or the player, are in a chair, and 2 dark silhouettes in the foreground with new Japanese text on the top left corner. Google Translate claims that this translates to virus, so I'm going to go with that. But this does give us more information. Next we have After Hours. We're at the KFC again and we see Ellis find Coach and try to wake him up. After doing so, Coach scares the shit out of Ellis and they have a laugh. When Ellis sits down, he reveals a remover tool he got from the player, and Coach and Ellis start chatting. But then we get a shot of Nick watching from the window of another building. Then we have Left Behind right after. We see Nick in the same dark room with a light above him and more flashing images. Nick looks at the camera, then wakes up on the couch with a gun and a picture apologizing to him on the table. Then Nick shoots it out of anger. We hear a removal sound, then see Nick fall out of the sky onto the KFC map from the Coach Chicken video. He sees through the black and white fuzz, then the player approaches him. The bullet to the head. It's all I needed to make my mind clear from what I must do. This one has 5 segments of Morse code in the subtitles. At the beginning of the video it says, "At most times, there is light in the darkness. But for me, there is darkness in the light. Something seeks in my mind. Somewhere the player cannot reach me. The darkness shall guide me to unsuspecting places." The different Morse code segments make up this string of text, and tells us that the bullet that hit Nick has changed him. It's changed his outlook on the player and the others. It's made him dangerous. The annoying redneck absolute shenanigans is next on our list, with Ellis popping up to a house in the woods where he finds Rochelle. He goes invisible to prank her by spooking her. After a cut, we see Rochelle laying down and angry at the laughing Ellis. Wait, am I the only one who didn't know Rochelle wears a Depeche Mode shirt? Well, I guess she has good taste in music. But anyway, at 1:18 we see a brief flash of Nick. Then Ellis gets scared the more the flash appears and he hears something. We see Ellis walk into a hall and see through his perspective. He walks over to a window and we see Nick strike him with a baseball bat. Rochelle yells and we see another flash. We can also faintly hear Nick talking and then some sharp electronic sounds. When Ellis comes to, we hear Coach exclaim and help up Ellis. The description says, Ellis is back at it again with his shenanigans. This time, it is Rochelle he will be annoying today. What could go wrong? And also, whenever there is shrill, annoying electrical noises, there is a message. This message being, Step 1 complete, awaiting instructions for Step 2. Looks like that shot must have also put Nick in contact with someone. Whether it be an imaginary voice, or someone with ill intentions. Nick is just a pawn now. Before we check out the next videos, we're going to look at 2 community posts. It's always difficult to tell in ARGs what order these compare to with the videos because YouTube doesn't date them, just says 2 years ago. Seriously, this is such an annoying feature. So we gotta guess, unfortunately. The first is a picture of Nick in the dark room with Morse code. A nightmare. The next one shows Nick with a scared face with Morse code saying, it hunts him. And the third, Nick among a black and red void saying, in his mind. So it looks like my running theory of something infecting Nick's mind might be correct. But what is it? And why is it so aggressive? Well, no time to think now, because our next video is the 5,000 subscriber Q&A announcement. It shows the PlasticApple profile page and flashes the number 5,000 subscribers. But we also see a brief frame at 8 seconds of the Ellis profile becoming distressed. The rest of the video talks about how crazy it is for them to see so many views and that they want to celebrate the videos with a Q&A. They thank everyone who's watched and fade out the video. The description talks about how it's amazing and says to comment any questions they have. It's also really weird that the captions for this video are largely in auto-generated Korean. The audio is largely Mardi Gras music, so I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment to the Korean language. Next we have Q&A. This one has PlasticApple answering comments from the last time. It's mostly normal with him dodging questions related to the words ARG or Gunslinger Pro or Badwater 2009. Other notable Garry's Mod ARG channels. But at around 1:25, a question comes up where white text under static only answers. The question relating to disarming someone in Garry's Mod with, it was self-defense. Why do they want to talk about it? It was self-defense. It was self-defense. It was self-defense. Then he answers the question normally. We can also see them playing into the fact that it's 2011 for them by correcting them about the term workshop to toy box, which was how people used to download mods for Garry's Mod. After answering more questions and doing a short pills animation with Lewis, a famous inside joke with the gmod and Left 4 Dead communities, the video ends shortly after. At the end of the video, there's another VHS glitch where we see what I assume is Nick, but it's so grainy that it's difficult to tell heads from tail. The description also makes note by saying, self-defense my ass. The next video is Insanity, where we see Nick standing up from the dark concrete room and looking around while something scampers in the darkness. Looking through a dark red film, we hear what sounds like backwards garble, then the entity attacks Nick. According to comments, the garble is a distortion of Nick's voice line, and the rest of the video shows fading images from Vaz from Far Cry 3's famous speech about insanity. Then the video ends with a pan to Nick's new creepy face. According to the comments, there was more Morse code in the subtitles, but for now they're disabled. They supposedly said, it's a nightmare. The insanity hunts him in his own mind. Rinse and repeat. The description also says, a nightmare? Looking for something? A sequence of letters and numbers, then some Mandarin. Translating the Mandarin, we get Google Drive, but I personally have no idea what we're supposed to do with the sequence above. Maybe it's a portion of a Google Drive link. It's too long to be a YouTube link, so I do not know how to crack this one. Except I did. Eventually I was able to crack my way into the drive by replacing the link where I was in a folder. I don't use Drive that often, so I didn't know which part I had to be in, but now I do. We get a .rar file from a drive named Artificial Intelligence Project 03-27-2010-01-13-2011.rar. Downloading it, we can find 2 password-protected PNGs. What's in the PNGs? Well, that's difficult. You see, some portions of this ARG have been changed, edited, or even re-uploaded and removed. I know this because the only other coverage of this channel I could find had an extra video and no mentions of the Google Drive or Chinese. So, I really don't know what lies within these files at the moment. Our next video is Garry's mod for absolute beginners, episode 1, posing. This one has PlasticApple showing us how to pose 2 Combine soldiers. It's just a normal tutorial until we hear a noise, and when turning around, the player gets hit by a model of Dr. Breen with a frying pan. This leads to them passing out, and we hear the NPCs yell. But after that, while the player is being dragged down a hall, it says how Step 2 is complete while they are connecting to Step 3. Control. There are also some new things to notice in the comments and description. Comments first. There are comments about how there was, again, Morse code saying the lookout and commence Step 2. However, because the video doesn't have captions enabled, I cannot confirm that. Some commenters also notice a detail I already knew, but haven't mentioned yet. The channel profile picture. The channel banner and profile pictures used to be of Ellis with a fizz gun, and now it's Nick with some blood on him. Now the description notes how it's been some time since the last video, then the description glitches into what I presume is Morse code. In times of a change, a desperate one would fail. Patience remains the key to preparation. In those who will join us, we will take control of what we deserved. Before we hit the next video, we need to check the community posts. The first is where Nick is hiding in one of the construct buildings looking at opposing Ellis and Coach, where it's titled, "For every end begins a new journey. Changing the past brings a new future. What deserves to be retold shall bring in more history." The next has Rochelle in front of, presumably Nick, with a shotgun saying, "Look around. As the hidden history shall be revealed, so will details not provided from the doctor. We will be waiting. Happy New Year, ass clowns." Most of the next posts are images except for one. Warning. Possible breach detected. Commencing full lockdown. Channel access. Hiatus indefinite. So, with that portion considered, let's look at the 4 last videos of this ARG. Well, technically not, but we'll get to that later. Retold 1 shows the previous videos all playing quickly in reverse. Then we pan to Construct and see Nick on a bed, waking up due to seeing the flashing of images like him in the dark room. Nick goes to the window and sees the player messing around with a ship, and Ellis having fun. Nick sneaks around more and sees Ellis and Coach posing in the grass. Then Nick starts doing shooting practice on some dummies until Ellis accidentally hits him with an RPG. The end of the video just has the Roman numerals for 1 through 4, and the video ends. Now this will be difficult to explain, because we're not going out of order technically, but bear with me because we'll try and round this out. At around 2:47 there's red and white masks that appears for a few brief frames. We'll learn what it is soon. Retold 2 shows CS Office again, August 3rd, 2011. We see Nick isolated from the others while the player watches, and when he walks away, Ellis calls for him with no response. Ellis goes into the office and picks up the pistol. He points it back after some static, but we see nothing. Then, when he turns around, there's a corrupted version of Coach. A Coach with white eyes and an unnaturally creepy demeanor. It ends with the Roman numerals of 2 through 4. Retold 3 starts where Retold 2 left off. Nick uncomfortable around the odd version of Coach. It snaps its neck around to face Nick and eventually uses some form of telekinesis to control him and even attack him. It throws away his weapon, then him, and it pounces ready to attack. But then it gets stuck midair. After a pause, it stops, then creates an error by shooting itself through the window. After getting up, Nick takes a breather and then sees red flashes from the corner and panics. Then we cut to seeing him panic more around the corners holding his pistol. Hearing footsteps, he tries to shoot, then we see the player use their fizz gun, and we see 3 through 4. Retold 4 shows it's August 7th, 2011, and we see Nick having a headache while walking on a dirt road. The shadowy figure glitches behind him, then we see it in front. He shakes his head, and then it disappears. Behind him. Cutting back, we see the player looking around, but to no avail. Nick wakes up in the dark room alone, but then we hear a voice apologizing for its brash actions. The voice starts manipulating Nick, saying that the others must not know it exists, and asks him if he would like to be more than neglected as a side character, but instead, the main attraction. The voice makes this offer while a red and white mask appears before Nick. The voice guarantees Nick powers unimaginable to even the player if he joins and wears his mask. Nick declines, and the voice gets frustrated. Then the shadowy coach attacks Nick, and the mask pops up and threatens Nick. The mask has waited too long, so it attaches forcefully to Nick's face as he screams, and the video ends where we see the dangling light from Moonstruck. After a while, the swinging light stops as Nick snaps his fingers, and some text says, "It's time," and the video ends. The description just says, "Welcome aboard." Now, I would normally say this is the end, but we missed, well, quite a bit. I do not particularly know why, but a lot of the videos I remember seeing are actually unlisted, and you could pretty much only see them in the playlists. Looking at the comments, I don't really see any codes for any of the unlisted videos, as this ARG does not seem to have many people sharing the codes in the description unless they're Morse code, and there's not really much cohesiveness. Even then, half the time it's on the wrong video. But thanks to the archival playlist, we can actually see all the unlisted videos, in which there's actually quite a few. Everybody Hurts is the first with the black and white scenic video of different maps like CS Office, Construct, and GM Big City, along with some others. We even see a shot Nick attacking Alice and Bill holding a rifle, along with some others. The song in the background is Everybody Hurts. The video eventually cuts to some static text saying that it's always hard to take down someone powerful, but when they're so easily distracted, it's not possible. The description says, sometimes everything is wrong. Now it's time to sing along. The next video we missed is Retold. Not Retold 1, Retold. This one starts with static, then we see red text say, "Times have changed, as untold stories bring in theories. For every history not told is bound to be repeated. What deserves to be retold shall bring in more history." Then we get static and quick audio of multiple other videos. Then we see the year 2012. The video after is Good Night, which has the red text again and discusses why details that would normally be hidden or secret are not. They're meant to be obvious, because the doctor would have been more careful if he knew what he was getting into. The player isn't in control of their own game. Good night. The description just wishes us ass clowns a happy new year. A New Year is the next video, showing the image of Nick with the chainsaw. This one largely has the red text saying to look around through the month of silence, at what the player had hidden. I think this is supposed to mean the Morse code and subtitles and images in Google Drive link, considering I never heard these things mentioned previously. There must still be codes I'm missing. The following video is Recapitulation. Whenever new words come up, a sound like wind in the microphone comes over. After greeting us, he thanks us for our patience, stating the revolution wasn't easy. We even see a flash of Nick with the two-face mask, as step 4 is in preparation. They want to clue us in on a few things. Then it plays a montage of some of the maps we've already seen before. The voice then decides we may need a retelling and flashes the video from before backwards. Then we see Nick's mask. See you later. The video after is At Last, where we start in a dark screen, then we see from Nick's perspective, and we see something come out of the void. We see some quick flashes, and in one of the red ones we see the word, "The Bullet." Then the video ends. A shame it's not an Etta James reference. Love that song. The description is a Google Drive link named As We Begin, with a text file named The Next Step. And it's, password protected. But if we put The Bullet, we can open it and get a secret URL. It's... You gotta be kidding me. Okay, I admit, that's a good April Fool's prank. I like it. Still have no clue about how to log into the other two images from Google Drive. Those are the only mysteries to me at the moment. But now that we have all the videos uncovered, let's make our final theory. The series has the Doctor, or the player, using a Dr. Kleiner skin, who likes the cast of Left 4 Dead series. He prefers Ellis over Nick, and Nick takes this personally when a bullet hits him in the back of the head, triggering some evil AI system to take him over. A 2011 AI project that was supposed to be an advanced AI, that seems to have advanced too much. Nick, acting under the manipulation of the mask forced upon him, is attacking the other NPCs and getting others to join him in taking out the player. Now, it's kind of unclear as to whether the player is absolutely violent off camera, but he seems to be relatively sympathetic and doesn't seem to outright torture or abuse them. Rather, utilize them for machinimas, but let them kind of do their own things as well. Eventually, Nick, under the control of the evil AI, I believe, starts to attack the others and is in the process of completing a plan that involves becoming more powerful than even the player. But, regardless, did I cover these ARGs thoroughly? Well, I always try to do my best when it comes to researching these projects. I usually do them on my own, often in the dark or with only old resources available, so yeah. A Gmod ARG was a different experience than a Minecraft ARG, funny enough. I think both of these ARGs have very interesting potential, being literal opposites. One about bleeding into a new plane of existence to gain a perceived power, while the other is the exact same, but from the NPC's perspective. At least I think. I encourage you to check out these ARGs, and I hope I have given you a good start into looking at some ARGs to research on your own. With the mystery of the Google Drives, I wish all of you who tried luck. They are likely already solved with their passwords, but I still never found them on either a comment or Reddit forum or the other ARG-related Discords I'm in. Still, I hope you enjoyed. If you want me to check out other Garry's Mod ARGs, I'd love to hear your suggestions. I will say, there's not too many great Minecraft ARGs besides some of the big ones I've been recommended like Moonlander and Friends Not Found, which I promise to cover someday. However, I have a lot of other projects I want to cover in the meantime. But, it's been me, Moosh. Comments, criticism, and suggestions are always welcome. See you later. Arrivederci.